Walk into any company run by digitally driven millennials, and you'll most likely step into a space that's not only an open floor plan, but one that's highly adaptable, equipped for 24/7 collaboration. Phones and tablets are everywhere. Broadband must be lightning fast and bandwidth high. And when people meet, it's going to be via video. Whether it's all hands, an internal meeting, or webinar, think all video all the time. While this agile office scenario is not mainstream quite yet, it's definitely on the horizon, partly due to the ubiquity and ease of video conferencing and apps like FaceTime. Hi, I'm Margot Douaihy, Editor-at-Large of AV Technology Magazine, and this is the Perfect Meeting Podcast. In today's episode, we get real with remote working and explore how trends like remote working have shaped the modern business landscape. We also dive into new research on millennials and work culture, and keep an eye to bleeding edge and emerging technologies like AR, VR, and AI. With me today is Barco's Lieven Bertier, ClickShare Marketing Director, and an expert on meeting culture and technology. Welcome, Lieven.
Pleasure to be here, Marco.
How has the remote working revolution changed the corporate meeting?
Remote meetings are gaining importance, and they're actually changing also our expectations towards meetings. I think that this is something that all of us experience day in, day out. You start having meetings from airport lounges, you have meetings from your hotel room, you have meetings from your home office. Many of us have meetings or have calls from the car. So that means that the importance of what I would call in-person meetings is decreasing little by little. And that is also something that was reflected in the research we did on the perfect meeting, whereby our respondents indicated that although face-to-face meetings are still in the top 3 of their preferred ways of collaboration today, they see a declining importance, and 5 years from now, the majority of the people believe that in-person meetings will have less and less importance.
Fascinating research. Certainly seems to track with what we're observing. Does your research also give you insight into millennials? What do millennials want from meetings?
Yeah, you make it almost sound like millennials are a special breed.
Special species of people.
Yeah. They are part of the group of so-called natural collaborators, and that means people born after the 80s who have grown up with digital technologies and tools, grown up with social media, with cloud and so on. And these natural collaborators, of which the millennials are part, indeed bring new demands to the workplace. And two very striking things we found out. First of all, 46% of the millennials say, I'm more productive at 1 a.m. in the morning than at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So that brings along demands for the workplace, of course. Next to that, 64% of them expect to have 24/7 access to the office. So that means they're not bound by hours, they're not bound by locations, and whether they get virtual or physical access to the office, they want to be there. That being said, a lot of changes. On the other hand, there's also one thing that doesn't seem to be changing, and that is the fact that whether you're a millennial or not a millennial, people want to have a fixed place in the office to work from. So all the companies putting their money on flex desking and so on, be aware, because millennials indicate 78% of them actually said we prefer a fixed desk, and that is more than 75% of all the generations indicating so.
That does seem to run a little bit counter to the narratives we're hearing about hot desking and some of those other trends and changes in the workplace. But it's interesting you highlighted about millennials being natural collaborators. So then how can meetings help foster a greater sense of inclusivity and support a wider sense of diversity for a company?
Very, very good question. My observations in meetings, and that also comes back in conversations we're having with customers and partners and so on, meetings are about making sure everybody can express their opinion. And what you very often see is you have a bunch of vocal people who will sort of monopolize the meeting. So to me, a key thing of having a good meeting is making sure that everybody can join, everybody can make their opinion or can make their voice heard. And if they're not so vocal or if they're not so loud in the meeting, let's make sure they have other ways of joining the conversation. They should be able to share a little video. They should be able to share a little picture. Maybe they've prepared a slide. Let's make sure they have the tools to seamlessly join the conversation.
Then what about the technologies that can, again, come back to this mysterious millennial group, but keep folks more engaged rather than distracted? Because again, if phones are everywhere and tablets are anywhere, there might be that impulse to check the email or refresh the feed, see maybe a new message on Snapchat. But what is the technology that can actually help drive that engagement?
Key thing when you start talking about technology is to make sure it delivers a solid user experience. What do I mean with this? Whether you're a millennial or whether you're a Generation X or whatever, we all share a lot. And that is the fact that we hate technology that is not working seamlessly. And that is driven by consumer technology. One of the examples would be, I buy a new smartphone. Do I still read the manual? No. I buy a new car. Do I need time to get acquainted to the car? No. I just step in and I expect my navigation console to be so intuitive that I can start driving or that I can start using it right away. And I'm afraid Apple is one of the companies that made us hooked up onto this kind of experience. And this is what millennials and all other meeting participants are bringing into the companies today.
So then that experience, keeping user experience and UX front of mind is important. What else must a technology system or device, especially in a meeting room, do or offer to be fully utilized rather than just ignored and gathering dust?
It's important that technology is what I would call zero learning and zero installation. What do I mean with it? A lot of people who come into meeting rooms are not allowed to install software on their devices, or maybe for security reasons, admin rights have been taken away and so on. So that's a big challenge for a lot of people. So that's why I say technology in the first place needs to be zero installation. It should be usable by anybody in the meeting room, whether you're an employee of the company or whether you're just there joining the meeting as a guest. Next to that, there's of course this zero learning element, and that is related to the experience we were talking about. People don't have time to get acquainted with technologies, let alone that you would move from one meeting room to the other and you would have to start using another system or another experience. That is something that people no longer accept, that is really consuming too much of their time.
So if meetings continue to be important, we might see more of them, although much more efficient in their time. What are the emerging technologies that you think are going to influence the future of meetings? Look into your crystal ball and what do you see?
I'm not going to use my crystal ball. I'm going to use the research with it, with 3,000
research.
all over
Better.
the world. So let me start by saying, if it is about emerging technologies, 3 out of 4 people are excited about what the meetings of the future will be like. And I have very high expectations of 3 things. First of all, voice recognition is going to change meetings. Secondly, virtual reality will improve the meetings. And last but not least, augmented reality will also play a big role in the future. Let's start with voice recognition. I mean, we have Alexa at home, we are using Siri, we are using Cortana and so on. So little by little the world is changing, and from being a manual, literally, interface towards technology, voice is little by little taking over. And we are talking to remote controls, we are talking to televisions. So our participants to the survey expect a lot of this in meetings. Next to that, they do expect a lot of virtual reality, although that might still be quite some time out, because when you start talking about virtual reality, when you start talking about holograms in the meeting and so on, there's still some time needed before this will truly materialize. And that's why personally I'm convinced of the power of augmented reality. What do we mean with augmented reality? It is adding a layer on top of the reality, and that can be adding a layer on top of your phone, it can be adding a layer on top of your glasses, giving extra information about the meeting and what is happening there. It can be about participants, can be about subjects. There's a lot of things you can imagine there. But that is to me a key element of how meetings of the future will really be different from what we're seeing today. Next to that, or I better say finally, there's of course also a big role that is played by cloud, by IoT. by machine learning, artificial intelligence. So all those things are happening in the background. And what is really important there is it is about collaboration in the meeting. It is about collaboration in the workplace. That is very important to a lot of companies. And of course, cloud, IoT, AI, it will all help share the insights of how technology is being used and how successful we are with collaboration.
Well, it sounds like an intuitive, a really exciting future with some fascinating developments on the very, very near horizon. So thank you for that research-driven forecast, Lieven.
Thank you very much, Margot. And for the listeners, if you would like to read through all our findings, you can download them from our website, barco.com/clickshare.
Thanks, everyone, for listening and spending time with us. We hope you feel inspired to energize your meetings. To learn more about the perfect meeting, visit clicksharefreetrial.com. Again, that's clicksharefreetrial.com. Talk to you soon.